Scorpio made of stars and fire. They weren't born to be liked, they weren't born to be quiet, and they sure as hell weren't born to play small. Scorpios were born to shine. Not with borrowed light, but with a fire forged from the deepest parts of the soul. You don't have to tell a Scorpio who they are, they already know. They knew before the world tried to tame them, before anyone ever doubted them, before silence became their sword and truth their shield. See, when a Scorpio walks into the room, you feel it even before they speak, that unspoken gravity, that energy that says, "I've been through things you wouldn't survive, and I turned it into power." Scorpios don't sparkle, they burn. And if you've ever been lucky enough to truly know one, you've seen that brilliance. The kind that doesn't ask for attention. It demands presence because real light isn't always soft. Sometimes it looks like a storm with eyes that see right through your soul. Sometimes it's the one who was underestimated, until the world had no choice but to watch them rise. So if you've ever wondered why Scorpio feels so different, so powerful, so unforgettable, this is why. Here are 12 reasons why Scorpio people were born to shine. Not later, not someday, but from the moment they entered this world. With a light no darkness could silence. Part 1. They shine through the darkness. Some people shine because life has always been kind to them. Scorpios shine because it was. Let me tell you something few people understand. Light isn't born in light, it's born in pressure, in silence, in places where most souls get lost. And Scorpio was born there. Their soul doesn't rise from the surface, it emerges from the deep. That's why when life throws storms, betrayal, and heartbreak at them, they don't just survive. They transform. You see, Scorpios don't avoid the darkness like others do. They walk straight into it, look it in the eye, and say, "You're not stronger than my spirit." Most people run when things get painful. Scorpios sit with that pain, they absorb it, they ask it questions, they learn from it, and then they glow. Not in a loud, attention-seeking way, but in that quiet, powerful glow that says, "I've seen things, I've endured, and now I am my own light." That's why when others fall apart, Scorpio holds steady. That's why when others collapse under chaos, Scorpio rises above it. Not because they're cold, but because they've already danced with darkness and came out crowned in fire. Let me give you a real example. Ever heard of Marie Curie? Yes, the double Nobel Prize-winning physicist and chemist. Scorpio woman, she didn't come from privilege, she didn't have support. She worked in isolation, lost her husband tragically, and faced relentless opposition. But did she stop? No, she kept going through the grief, the sexism, the scientific doubts, and became the first person in history to win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. She didn't ask for light, she became it. That's the Scorpio signature. Turning pain into brilliance, shadow into fuel, silence into a spark that lights up the world. So if you've ever wondered why Scorpios seem unshakable, why they keep glowing no matter how dark it gets, now you know. They were never afraid of the dark, they were designed to shine inside it. Life lesson: don't wait for the world to hand you light. Sometimes the only way to shine is to become the flame yourself. And if you're going through a dark season right now, maybe it's not punishment, maybe it's preparation. Just like Scorpio, your soul might be in training to glow in ways no one will see coming. Part 2. Their soul remembers power. Some people are born with potential. Scorpio is born with memory, not the kind of memory tied to names, faces, or childhood nostalgia. I'm talking about soul memory, the ancient kind that carries the echoes of past lives, unfinished missions, and cosmic responsibility. You see, most people come into this world needing to find themselves. Scorpio comes in already knowing but having to remember. It's why they often feel older than their age. Why they look at people and feel like they've already met them. Why they crave depth from such a young age when others are still chasing surface pleasures. Their soul remembers fire, remembers war, remembers truth, and remembers the promise they made before entering this life. I will not come back just to survive. I will come back to awaken power in myself and in others. Have you ever noticed how Scorpios often seem like they're on a mission, even if they can't fully name it? That's not ego, that's spiritual recall. They're not drawn to the ordinary because they didn't come here for it. They're drawn to the mystical, the unspoken, the dangerous truths hidden beneath the noise. Because something in them whispers, you've seen this before. Let's talk about a real soul like that, Leonardo DiCaprio, a Scorpio man. What makes him shine isn't just his talent, it's the weight he carries in his eyes. He doesn't just play roles, he becomes the spirit of them. From The Revenant to Inception to Blood Diamond, his characters always tap into something raw, ancient, and spiritual. There's a reason people say he doesn't act, he remembers. That's what Scorpio brings to the world, not just action, awareness, not just reaction, reconnection to something greater than logic or biology. They live with a pulse that doesn't beat to this world alone. And sometimes that makes them feel like they don't belong here. But that discomfort, that feeling of being too much, too intense, too different, it's just the soul remembering its own power and waiting for the right moment to use it. Life lesson: sometimes your purpose isn't something you need to find. It's something your soul has always known and is patiently waiting for you to remember. So if you've ever felt out of place, too deep, or misunderstood, maybe you're not broken, maybe you're just waking up like a Scorpio, and your real power, it was never lost. It was just waiting for you to come home to it. Part 3: They're not afraid of pain. Most people fear pain. Scorpio studies it. They don't flinch when the storm comes. They don't hide when life breaks down. They lean in, eyes wide open, and ask the question most people are too afraid to speak. What are you here to teach me? To Scorpio, pain is not the enemy. It's the mentor, the initiator, the threshold between who they were and who they are becoming. And here's what's different about them. They don't romanticize pain. They respect it because they've lived long enough to know pain will either destroy you or awaken you. Scorpios choose the second path. Where others build walls, they open wounds. Where others numb, they listen. Where others break, they bend, and then they rebuild themselves stronger than before. Think about that for a moment. In a world where people hide their tears, Scorpios blade truth. They allow pain to purify them, not poison them. You want proof? Let's talk about Katy Perry, Scorpio woman. You may know her as the bold pop star with explosive visuals and #1 hits. But what you might not know is the story behind the stage. She was dropped by 3 record labels, faced public humiliation after failed marriages, lived in her car during the early days, and yet she turned that rejection into fuel. She created art out of ache. Raw, wide awake, rise, all born from a soul that was cracked open but never quit. Because that's what Scorpios do, they feel everything deeply, completely. But instead of drowning, they use those waters to baptize their transformation. And make no mistake, pain didn't dim their light, it revealed it. That's why when a Scorpio walks with you during your darkest hour, you feel safe because you know they've been there and they're not afraid of your pain either. Life lesson: stop running from pain, sit with it, ask it why it came, let it carve you, challenge you, strip you bare. Because what's left after that is the version of you that no longer hides, the version that shines without apology. Just like a Scorpio. Part 4's They read what others hide. There are people who listen to what you say, And then there are Scorpios. They listen to what you don't. They walk into a room and feel the tension before a single word is spoken. They lock eyes with someone and know something's not right, they're lying, they're hurting, they're hiding something. Scorpios have a gift that can't be taught, a kind of emotional X-ray vision. They don't just observe, they penetrate. Not out of suspicion, not because they want control, but because they're wired for truth. And here's the thing, truth doesn't always come in words, it comes in the pause, the tone, the body language, the feeling that says. What they just said doesn't match what their soul is screaming. That's why Scorpios are so intimidating to some people. Because when you speak to a Scorpio, you're not just being heard, you're being read. And if you're not honest, they feel it. If you're hiding something, they sense it. If you're faking love, they know it, even if they don't say it right away. Trust me, they've already filed it away in silence. Take Ryan Gosling, for example. Scorpio man, you rarely see him in tabloids, rarely hear him over-explain. But when he acts, when he watches, there's an intensity behind those eyes. Like he sees the whole story, not just the script. That's pure Scorpio energy. They don't need to ask the obvious questions. They already have the answers and they're just watching to see if you'll lie. Now, some people mistake that for paranoia, but it's not fear. It's pattern recognition on a spiritual level. They've been betrayed, they've been lied to, they've been studied. So now they're the ones who study others, and that's what makes them shine. Not because they expose people, but because they see through illusion. They remind us that authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. Life lesson, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, is pay attention not just to words, but to energy, to what's missing, to what's hiding in plain sight. Scorpio teaches us you don't need to speak loudly to see deeply. You just need the courage to see things for what they truly are. Part 5, they turn trauma into gold. Some people survive pain. Scorpios alchemize it. They don't just get through their darkest chapters. They rewrite them. They take the ugliest, most soul-wrenching parts of their life and turn them into something sacred. This isn't just resilience. This is spiritual alchemy. The ability to take emotional load, betrayal, abandonment, humiliation, and transmute it into wisdom, strength, and compassion. You know why Scorpios shine so deeply? Because they've earned that light. It was carved from the ashes of everything they weren't supposed to survive. They've lost people they never thought they'd lose. They've trusted the wrong hearts. They've been misunderstood, misjudged, mislabeled. But instead of becoming bitter, they became gold, and make no mistake. This transformation doesn't happen in public. It happens in silence, in bedrooms late at night when no one's watching. When they break down fully, brutally, honestly, and then they decide to rise anyway. Let me share a real-world Scorpio story. Julia Roberts, yes, America's sweetheart. But behind that smile is a Scorpio soul that's known deep emotional warfare. She lost close family members, went through intense betrayals, and even had her wedding called off publicly. Yet she came back with more grace, more brilliance, more power. Her performances don't just entertain, they heal. Because her soul isn't acting, it's channeling something deeper. That's Scorpio, the healer who was once the wounded. The fire that used to be smoke. What others call too intense, Scorpio calls sacred heat. What others call trauma, Scorpio sees as fuel for purpose. They don't deny what hurt them, they build from it. And that's why their light is so rare. Because it's not fake, it's not filtered, it was born from truth. Life lesson, what broke you might just be what will build you if you let it. Stop asking why it happened, start asking, what can I turn this into? Scorpio teaches us you don't need to stay the person pain tried to make you. You can choose to become something stronger, wiser, and more real than ever before. You can turn your wounds into gold. Part 6. They shine alone, not for approval. Some people shine because they're praised. Scorpios shine because they've learned to praise themselves in silence. They don't need applause, they don't need permission. They don't need to be seen to know who they are. Scorpio was never designed for the spotlight. But ironically, the spotlight often finds them anyway, because when someone is walking in their truth, unbothered by opinions, untouched by trends, their glow becomes magnetic. What makes Scorpios stand out is this: they are completely comfortable being powerful alone. They're not performing for approval. They're not molding themselves to fit in. They'd rather be misunderstood in authenticity than adored in disguise. And that's why their energy is so unforgettable. It's the kind of energy that walks into a room quietly, but shifts the temperature completely. You don't see them coming. You feel them arriving. Let me give you a real-world Scorpio example. Winona Ryder. She didn't chase the fame. She didn't play Hollywood's game. She disappeared when she needed to. She healed. She came back not for validation, but on her own terms. And when she returned in Stranger Things, she wasn't just acting. She was anchoring the entire emotional weight of the show. Because that's what Scorpio energy does. It anchors, it shines in its own space, not louder, just deeper. And that depth makes people pause. It makes people question themselves. Because when someone doesn't crave attention, yet still commands it, you can't help but ask, what do they know that I do? Scorpio's shine isn't loud, it's sacred. It comes from knowing, I don't need you to clap for me, I've already survived things you'll never see. Life lesson: true power doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't shout, it doesn't shrink, it just is. Like Scorpio, you don't need to be surrounded to be strong. You don't need praise to be radiant. Sometimes your greatest glow comes when no one's watching. When you've faced yourself, accepted your shadows, and decided, I'll shine anyway, not for them, for me. Part 7. They speak from the soul. When a Scorpio speaks, the room goes quiet, not because they raise their voice, but because their words carry weight. They don't speak to fill space. They don't talk for applause, and they'll never say something just to make you feel better. No, Scorpios speak from a different place. A place most people are too afraid to visit. They speak from the soul. Every word is calculated, not for manipulation, but for meaning. Every silence is intentional, not for drama, but for observation. Every truth they drop feels like it was pulled from some invisible depth. Because it was. Have you ever had a Scorpio say something to you that stuck with you for years? That's not an accident, that's their gift. They don't just talk, they transmit. Their words cut through the noise, they get under your skin. They reveal what you've been avoiding. And sometimes they even say the thing your soul has been waiting to hear. Let's talk about Drake. Scorpio man. Say what you will about fame or music, but when he opens his mouth to rap or speak, people listen. Because he doesn't just rhyme, he reaches. His lyrics are drenched in memory, tension, loyalty, betrayal, pride, and transformation. That's Scorpio. They don't speak to impress, they speak to impact. And yes, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes their honesty feels like fire, but it's the kind of fire that burns illusions, not people. They'll tell you what no one else will. They'll speak the truth others are afraid of because they know. A half-truth might comfort you, but a whole truth will free you. And isn't that the real goal? Not to feel good in the moment, but to be liberated for a lifetime. That's why Scorpio's voice is different. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. Life lesson: speak with intention, speak with depth, speak with the kind of truth that doesn't need validation. It's because it comes from your core, not your ego. Like Scorpio, dare to speak in a way that echoes. because when you speak from the soul, you're not just making noise, you're making legacy. Part 8 THEY intimidate because they illuminate. Let's get something straight. People aren't afraid of Scorpio because they're dark. They're afraid of Scorpio because Scorpio shines a light on things others want to keep hidden. It's not their fault that the truth is uncomfortable. It's not their fault that their presence makes masks fall off. It's just what happens when someone walks into the room with nothing to hide. See, when a Scorpio enters your life, things start to shift. Fake friendships feel fake. Surface conversations feel hollow. Secrets feel heavy. Why? Because Scorpio energy doesn't allow you to pretend anymore. They see too much. They feel what's off, and even in silence, they hold up a mirror so sharp. You can't look away from your own reflection. That's why some people get uncomfortable around them. It's not that Scorpio is doing anything wrong. It's that their clarity exposes other people's chaos. Their light isn't soft and sweet. It's soul-rattling. It forces others to confront their shadow, to get honest, to level up. And not everyone is ready for that, but here's the irony. Those who fear Scorpio's intensity the most are often the ones who need it the most. Just like a wildfire clears the forest for new growth, Scorpio's energy burns through illusions so real healing can begin. Take Anne Hathaway, Scorpio woman. There was a time when she was deeply criticized, called too much, too sincere, too intense. But did she back down? No. She kept shining, kept speaking with heart, kept walking in her truth. Now, she's respected for her rawness, her intelligence, and her refusal to dim down for Hollywood. That's Scorpio power. They don't tone it down to make you comfortable. They turn it up so you can evolve. And if you can't handle that, you're free to walk away, but you'll never forget them. Life lesson: your light will make some people uncomfortable. Not because you're wrong, but because they're not ready to see what you reflect. Shine anyway. Like Scorpio, you're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be real, to be clear, to be unapologetically luminous, even if that light makes others flinch. Part 9 THEY guide others through darkness. Some people offer you comfort. Scorpios offer you clarity even in your darkest night, when your world falls apart, when everyone else disappears, when you're surrounded by silence, grief, or questions no one dares to answer. That's when a Scorpio appears. Not to fix you, not to pity you, but to walk beside you through the fire, through the mess, through the soul-level chaos and say, "You're not alone in this, I've been here too." That's what makes their light so unique. It doesn't shine to impress. It shines to illuminate the path for others. Scorpios have walked through hell and made maps. They know what betrayal feels like. They know how it feels to be unseen, unchosen, misunderstood. They've rebuilt themselves in silence. And now, when someone else is breaking, they don't flinch, they don't offer cliches, they offer truth, they offer presence. And above all, they offer understanding without judgment. Think of Whoopi Goldberg, Scorpio woman. A woman who's survived childhood trauma, addiction, poverty, and devastating loss. And yet, she didn't just heal in private. She became a voice for those without one. She turned her story into medicine. Not just through comedy, but through raw honesty, activism, and mentorship. That's Scorpio at their highest, the wounded healer, the soul who knows darkness intimately, but doesn't hoard the light they've found. Instead, they hold out their hand and say, "Come on, there's a way out, and I'll walk it with you." That kind of light is rare. It's not Instagram deep. It's not about image. It's about initiation, about helping others rebirth through their own pain. Life lesson: you don't have to be perfect to be a guide. You don't need to have all the answers to be someone's light. Like Scorpio, maybe your story, your scars, are exactly what someone else needs to see to keep going. Sometimes your survival is the map someone else needs, and sometimes the brightest light you'll ever shine is the one you offer when someone else is lost. Part 10. They're spiritually unshakable. The world can shake, people can betray, dreams can collapse, but Scorpio doesn't fall apart. Because their power doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. Their foundation isn't built on approval, popularity, or praise. It's built on something far deeper, spiritual alignment. You see, Scorpio isn't just an emotional warrior. They're a spiritual force. They know, even when things feel chaotic on the surface, that underneath it all, something bigger is at work. That's why you can't rattle a Scorpio with gossip, games, or emotional turbulence. They've outgrown the need to control everything. Instead, they've learned to trust the divine timing of their path. Yes, they still feel deeply. Yes, they still get wounded, but they don't stay in breakdown. They rise every single time because their spirit is anchored to something eternal. You'll often hear Scorpio say, "I just knew, I had a gut feeling. Something told me to wait and I was right." That's not intuition by accident, that's soul memory in action. Let's talk about someone who embodies this. Ryan Reynolds, Scorpio man. On the outside, funny, witty, successful, but dig deeper, and you'll find a man who has faced deep internal battles, including mental health struggles, anxiety, and self-doubt. Yet he channels it into his work, into advocacy, into spiritual awareness. He doesn't need to be loud about it. He just is that stability, that Scorpio calm in the middle of chaos. Because here's the truth. Scorpio doesn't collapse when things go wrong. They tighten their focus. They tune in, they listen to the silence. And they move in alignment with something greater than fear. That spiritual power, that's why they shine so unshakably. Life lesson. You don't need to control everything around you. When you're rooted in something within you, like Scorpio, the deeper your connection to your soul, the less anything external can shake you. Storms will come, let them. Because when you're grounded in truth, you don't just survive the storm, you become the calm inside it. Part 11. They're reborn with purpose. Some people go through hard times and come out bitter. Scorpio goes through death and rebirth, and comes out with divine purpose. Scorpio doesn't just recover, they reinvent, and every time they fall, break, or lose everything, they emerge stronger, sharper, and more soul-aligned than ever. This isn't just resilience, it's spiritual rebirth. Scorpio rules the 8th house in astrology. The house of transformation, death, regeneration, soul contracts, and inheritance. That means their life is never meant to be linear or easy. It's meant to be initiatory. A series of emotional deaths, followed by spiritual awakenings. They are born to be reborn, and with each rebirth, their purpose gets clearer. They drop what's fake, they release what's expired, they stop playing roles, and they step fully into who they were always meant to be. You'll see it in their careers, their relationships, even their personal style. It's not changing. It's evolving, and the world feels it. Take Matthew McConaughey, Scorpio man, once labeled as the fun, shirtless rom-com guy. Then he disappeared, went silent, turned down roles. People thought he was done, but no, he was just shedding. And when he came back as a philosopher actor, winning an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club, writing green lights, speaking truth, not just performing it. That's Scorpio, rebirth in motion. Not just a comeback, a complete elevation of purpose. That's what happens when a Scorpio soul embraces the fall. They rise not as who they were, but who they were always meant to become. Life lesson. Sometimes the version of you that you're clinging to has to die so the version you were destined to be can live. Don't fear endings. Don't fear letting go. Like Scorpio, allow yourself to shed the old skin. even if it hurts, because on the other side of that surrender is a rebirth that serves your highest calling. Part 12, they carry the light of the underworld. Every zodiac sign carries a gift, but Scorpio carries a torch, lit not by heaven but by the shadows they've learned to survive. Scorpios aren't afraid of the dark. Because they were born in it, they've made peace with what others suppress. They've looked their demons in the eye and said, "You will not control me, I will use you to evolve." That's what makes their light so rare, so sacred. It's not borrowed from the stars. It's earned in the abyss. They've walked through emotional hell, loss, betrayal, trauma, isolation. But instead of collapsing, they collected light from the depths. Scorpios don't just know light and dark, they bridge them. They are the messengers of truth between worlds. The ones who can speak to the broken and still inspire healing. The ones who hold space for transformation. Because they embody it, and this isn't poetic, it's archetypal. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and the underworld. That's why their presence always feels powerful, mystical, and slightly intimidating. They carry the energy of a soul guide. Whether they realize it or not, you want a perfect symbol of this. Look at Martin Scorsese's Scorpio Man. His films explore the rawest layers of human nature: guilt, obsession, violence, redemption. But always with a thread of deep truth woven through the chaos. He doesn't flinch from what's ugly, he reveals it. And in doing so, he shows us what's real. That's what Scorpio light does. It's not here to make things pretty, it's here to make them honest, to remind us that true illumination doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from transforming it. Life lesson: the world doesn't need more light that avoids darkness. It needs more light that understands it, that has walked through it, that can guide others out of it. Like Scorpio, don't be afraid of what you've been through. It didn't break you. It built you into someone who carries truth, power, and wisdom that no textbook could ever teach. And if your light feels different, it's because it was never meant to look like anyone else's. It was meant to be sacred. Unmistakable, eternal, summary, you were never meant to hide. So now you know, Scorpios don't shine in spite of the darkness. They shine because of it. They don't need the world's permission. They don't wait for someone to hand them a spotlight, they become the fire. After they've been burned, broken, and reborn, because Scorpio light is not surface, it's soul. It's not about being seen. It's about seeing through everything that's false and choosing to be real anyway. These 12 reasons aren't just about astrology, they're about transformation. They're about owning your scars, remembering your power, and choosing to glow. Even when no one claps for you, even when you're alone, even when the world misunderstands your intensity, Scorpios were never made to blend in. They were made to light. In silence, in shadows, and in soul-level truth. So if you're a Scorpio, don't shrink, don't apologize, don't dim your light to make others comfortable. You were born to shine. In a way that no one can copy. In a frequency that only old souls can feel. And if you're not a Scorpio, but you've made it this far, then maybe, just maybe, you carry a little bit of that sacred flame too, call to action. If this message spoke to your soul, leave a comment below and tell me what part of your pain has become your light. Your story could be the torch someone else needs right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom, where we don't just talk about signs. We talk about souls, because this isn't about horoscope trends. It's about awakening who you were always meant to be.